So my name is Dawn Drew, and if you've read my bio, you probably have forgotten my name and just remember the company I worked for, which is National Geographic. And I worked there for about 16 and a half years as vice president and publisher of their travel division and Nat Geo Traveler magazine. And most people ask, why would you leave the greatest job in the world to become Most Incorporated, which is actually an acronym for my own shingle travel and entertainment. And that's because I wanted to innovate where I worked in the travel industry. I wanted to do some things that were just important to me and not necessarily a society mission. So I'm here today to talk to you about I'm a practitioner of the ancient art of media, and then how media is changing, and then also about the need for human capital investment. All of you are startups, so I'm going to start with this by asking a question. How many people in this audience with startup companies want to make $50 million with their company? So that should be everybody. Okay. I just want to say that startup companies and disruptors don't have to be huge to make an impact. They don't have to be tremendous to create livelihoods for other people. It's important to know that startups have a place in almost every community, and that the best thing to do with them sometimes is to benefit others. So we're going to get first into media, because I was asked to talk about media, my favorite topic, and impact awareness. So this is a picture I took the other day when I was on my way to Kazbegi. I'm first time in Georgia, so very inspired by what I see here. And when you're talking about media, it's important not just to talk about what your product is, because at the root of all media coverage, successful media campaigns, is experience. Media campaigns are all about getting people to engage with you. You're talking about something that is important to you in social media, something unique that you've done, something that other people are not going to be able to possibly experience themselves unless they copy you, of course. And that's at the root of social media being successful. It's also at the root of the traditional media picking you up in a standard way. Because as we mentioned earlier, Mitch mentioned earlier, it's just not the same as it used to be. There are some new rules of working with media, whether it's social media, established print media, or the established broadcast media. So the 6 new rules of marketing and using media, first is to be discovered. Your customers want to find you, they don't want to be pursued by you. You don't need to just put messages out there in the way that they used to be put out there as far back as, say, 2010. The second thing is to look at what people do. Behavioral segmentation is really key. So you can be an adventure traveler and be 65 and still climb a mountain, but demographics might say otherwise, but it's what these people are doing. So it's not always targeting someone, it's targeting their behavior. So behavioral segmentation is the term that we use when you start to look at people's activity and how to reach them. The third thing actually, is one-to-one communication. And that is thank you to the internet. When we used to do mass market advertising, just put a message out there in the biggest circulation magazine or on the TV station that has the most people watching it, and not even really targeting what their interests are or what they're doing. That used to work. But now people are living in a media bubble where they can stream their favorite playlists, or they can select to program their car radio station only to get political news or only sports news or only certain kinds of programming. So we're in a bubble. So you now have to find people and penetrate those bubbles on almost a one-to-one basis. And that's a lot harder to do. And the other is continuous relationships. You just can't blast people with media and then go away for 6 months and come back and say, oh, it's holiday time, so people will tend to want to buy my product, or it's summertime and more people will want to travel. That doesn't work so well anymore. It's that continual customer relationship that you want to develop when you're using the media, whether it's social media or traditional media. And the fifth thing is integrated channels. So people overlap. So I'm a foodie. I love to go out and try different food, and I like to look at pictures of it, and I'm all into the food porn. However, at the same time, I like to cook. and I like to travel. So you can reach me in 3 different ways, and usually you'll find me on different integrated channels of media, whether it's a Facebook group or Instagram. I follow probably about 20 different photographers on Instagram. You'll also be able to reach me on Netflix, frankly, because I'm always on that. So it's those integrated channels where you have to figure out how to reach people and make that overlap and have the one-on-one communication. And then data-driven automation. That is really key for anyone pushing out a message. So you have a startup and you want to reach people. There's no room for your intuition at this point. You have to take a look at analytics and figure out how you're going to use Google or how you'll use Facebook or how you will put an ad on Instagram, because that is what's going to help you target your customer the easiest and the fastest. So there's really very little hoping that someone is going to find you by putting your message out there in a mass market way. So the other thing is that everything's an advertisement. So one of the things my company does is we produce video, actually television programs, and we do them on location, and we use them to promote destinations. And this is one, I don't know how to go to this. Can you go to the link? This is the link to a YouTube video. This is a trailer from a series that we produced last year in Africa. It airs on National Geographic International. It's just started. But we have a lot of short videos that are up on YouTube. And as I said, everything's a commercial. And this has all been totally sponsored. If someone were to look at this, you wouldn't know it. This is a 1-minute trailer on this. Video sound?
Through East Africa is life-changing.
This is paradise. I mean, this is
Can you start it over?
Madhouse.
Start it
I
over?
have Mike telling me to meet him near the chicken.
It's all right.
I'm sure the lines won't smell the potato. No, you taste it first.
My journey through East Africa is life-changing.
This is paradise. I mean, this is an absolute madhouse. I have Mike telling me to meet him near the chicken. I'm sure the lines won't smell the potato croquettes, not amanitas.
I was completely in love with the simple life, you know.
I meet people that defy the odds and all expectations.
How was it for a young Maasai woman to go off to university?
Being the only Maasai, it was quite challenging.
This is my home. I was born here, been here all my life.
Say Balela.
Balela!
Is it party time you go like dancing?
Come on, honey.
I have unbelievable food, and eating with the locals makes it even better.
It's like some of my favorite food.
Yeah.
Nice and spicy, fantastic.
And experiences I could never have imagined.
And what do they do with the blood?
You drink the blood. That's
Drink
not
the blood.
This is just an incredible honor being part of this whole ritual.
This is my Dolce Africa.
So this was something, thanks. This was born out of the objective of wanting to show cultural Africa. Most people go to Africa and they want to go on a safari, particularly East Africa. And we wanted to start to work with the governments to showcase a different part of that world. So we were able to bring David Rocco, and we filmed 13 episodes in East Africa. Able to bring David Rocco and a crew over and literally find stories about people that were different and start to promote the food, some of the locations, hotels, and things of this way in an innovative way of communicating. And people right now are watching video all the time, which is why we're breaking this up into short 2-minute segments so that you can be entertained by it. And we worked specifically with these countries that wanted to showcase their cultural elements. So we can talk about that more later, but this is a way that media is working now. It is, a lot of it's called native content or sponsored content. And this is something where someone will watch it and they won't know that Ethiopia Tourism and Kenya Airways and the airlines have all sponsored the content that's in here. They haven't necessarily directed it, but they have sponsored it. We started this at National Geographic Traveler in 2004 by going to India and saying to them, look, we know there's a lot to cover here, but if you will sponsor a 68-page segment of the magazine, we will cover it, and just like we would anything else, but it would be your content, and you would eventually own it. So we started doing this. It was a little controversial at the time, but now it is standard practice. So those of you out here with a startup looking to meet people and engage with people, this is one way to do it, and there are a lot of partners that can make it work. So I'll be here through Saturday. I'll be happy to talk to anybody about how the media is working right now, particularly in the US. And I will say also that someone needs to come and help save it because it's dying. It is. The next part of my talk I wanted to give was about creating jobs and investing in people. I hear a lot about how big a lot of these disruptors are, but we haven't talked yet, and I'm going to ask Richard to talk a little bit about Amazon and their reinvestment in people, human capital development, because they are giving people a living wage. As big as they get, they're hiring more and more people. And one of the reasons to have a startup business or an innovative business that's going to disrupt the status quo is to create jobs. And it is to invest in people and training and skill development. It's important. And, I think it's something that doesn't get talked about enough. So what will innovation do to these fishermen in Northern Kerala? They're all making a livelihood every day by going out and they're bringing back fish and they're selling them at the market. But that's changing. These same people, there's half the number of people here than there were 3 years ago when I took that photo. So innovation and automation is changing a lot of things. So how can the same technology help save livelihoods in rural communities especially? I was online the other day and I looked and I saw that this company, alux.com, has predicted that there will be 15 jobs that disappear in the next 15 years. Largely due to automation, if you will. So drivers, and we can thank Uber for that, as well as dispatchers. So autonomous driving will eliminate the need for drivers. But I wonder if we'll still need mechanics with different skills, or will that go to bots as well? Farmers. Right now there are, I think it's 5 major food companies that They have all of the food distribution in the world. Nestle's one of them, PepsiCo, Coca-Cola, names that we're all familiar with. Cashiers. Right now in New York City, you can go to lunch and not have to have any cash. In so many places, they will take Apple Pay, Level Up. So you don't need to have a cashier. All you do is you put it in your phone and you're finished. Travel agencies. We've been talking about the disappearance of travel agencies for a very long time. I do believe for a certain sector of people, travel agencies will always exist. However, they do less and less. Usually if you're taking a trip that's further away from home, you're going to need a travel agent or you're going to want a travel agent. But if you're my son who's 28 years old and he's going to go drive the high desert in Argentina with his roommate, he's not telling anybody anything. He's just going to go. He doesn't need an agent to set things up. He's going to buy his ticket. He'll find a place to stay. He'll use Airbnb, and he will figure it out. And I admire that. I can't quite do that. But that younger generation is. Manufacturing workers, waiting tables. There's a place called Itza where you don't need anyone to come and take your order. You just simply plug it into your phone. You're seeing that in airports all the time. You get your bill and you move on. And some automated system delivers your order to where you're sitting. I don't know if you've seen these yet. They're pretty prominent in some of the larger cities. And bank tellers, military pilots being replaced by drones, telemarketers, that's what cookies are for now. That's why every time you go to a site, they say we use cookies so they can figure out how to send you some messages back that might be relevant to what you're doing. So we're looking at a real change in what people are able to do and how they'll be able to make their money, which means that we have a responsibility, particularly for our industry, which is so service dependent. We need to train people, we need to develop career paths, and we need to actually keep the labor force going. And travel and tourism has the ability to do that. This photograph is of it's a resort in Western Gujarat that I stayed in. And it is run by the local people in this village. And it was funded in part by UNDP and the Indian government, and it was probably one of the best trips I've ever taken. And all these huts were built by the local people who live there, and you ate in their hut, and you spent a lot of time with them. So they were getting ready for the coming urbanization in that part of Gujarat. There's a Delhi-Mumbai corridor company that has built satellite cities between the major cities in New Delhi and Western Gujarat. And now people are stopping. It's in the Rann of Kutch. People are stopping in Kutch, in this village, and they're staying there. And not just locals. I stayed there twice. So, you know, you've got governments that are helping these cities sort of spread out, and also helping the local people become part of the economy. So urbanization is important for us to figure out. It's where the workers are going to be. And right now, the UN has defined the top 5 megacities by population as being Tokyo, New Delhi, Shanghai, Mexico City, and Sao Paulo. And that's this year. Every year, that ranking changes, and every year, they're adding more and more megacities to this list. A megacity is a city that has a population of 10 million in its designated metropolitan area. And this is where the working force is. This is why a continent like Africa, which is largely rural and has a rural population, is beginning to see their individual farms shrink. And people are moving to cities like Lagos. And they're camping out on the outsides of these cities, hoping that they'll be able to get a job, perhaps get an education, and maybe some job training. And same thing with Johannesburg. In fact, we're going to see in the next 20 years, almost all of the megacities will be in Asia or Africa. They're going to eclipse the other cities by population in the next 10 years, perhaps, but 20 years, you'll see a real shift in where they are. And last is the responsibility of a startup. It's not just about an opportunity for you, but it really is about creating the economy around you, skill building for the average worker so that they are able to remain part of the economy. You have to determine your scalability and your social impact. You know, when you develop your product, how big is this going to be, really? And it's not a problem if it's not going to be very big. And what will that impact be on the communities? And how will you develop careers for others because of your business? And how long will you be able to sustain your business? You know, are you the type of entrepreneur who's going to develop something and then go on to the next type of business that you want to develop? Will you be able to leave it and sell it, as Mitch did, and have it thrive? And will there be some opportunities for the people who work in that business when you are able to sell it? So it's important to start to think about how your startup is going to benefit others.